Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do the NXT recap, which took place last night, June 3rd, 2025. As mentioned in the previous video, KP will not be joining us for at least probably a few more videos. So for now and the foreseeable future, it will be The Push with Nick. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the action. We start off the show with Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, and then they are joined by Ethan Page, who is mad that he has to defend his North American title in the Fatal 4-Way this Saturday at Worlds Collide. He states that he wasn't even the one who agreed to that. That was Ricky States. And then he's joined by Sean Legacy and the Vanity Project from Evolve. Last I checked, they were known as Swipe Right. So clearly, I have some catching up to do on that show. Sean Legacy is basically here because he claims that he gets the winner of the Fatal 4-Way at North American of the North American title. So yeah, this segment was good enough for what it was, kind of showcasing and promoting that title match. We have another opportunity to do that later on in the evening. So yeah, let's continue on. We then get the tag match that Chase U kind of booked themselves into. Cale Dixon and Uriah Connors and Andrew Chase of Chase U 2.0, we'll call them. And they're going up against Dark States, Dion Lennox, and Osiris Griffin. Yeah, this wasn't going to ever, work out in Chase U's favor, obviously. And they showed very little resistance. And in the end, this was a pretty dominant performance. I'll call it a glorified squash match. It wasn't too much more than that. But yeah, once again, Dark State continues to show how dominant they are and how much of a force they will be to be reckoned with going forward. And then we see the continued growing pains of JCU 2.0. Next match we see is Miles Bourne versus Charlie Dempsey in a rounds match. This was set up last week, and the stipulation being if Miles wins, he's allowed to leave in QCC. So Corey Graves poured it out on commentary, kind of how silly this concept was. There is some truth behind that, but regardless, this is professional wrestling. If you can't have fun with some things like this, then what are we all doing here? Anyways, while I think this match kind of type is extremely predictable, I feel like it kind of has to be, though. If this worked like an actual boxing match and we went, however many rounds without any pinfalls or points scored, so to speak, it wouldn't be very entertaining. So I understand why it has to be this way. So that being said, we haven't seen one in a while. It's something different, and it keeps me entertained for what it is. And this obviously was a very technical match, I think, as probably most of us expected with the two men in the ring. Also had me wondering, because this is essentially the format of the Heritage Cup, where is Noam Dar? I can't recall the last time I saw him. Maybe we've seen him once since he won the Heritage Cup, but I don't think we've seen him in action. So had me thinking about that as well. But anyways, Miles Bourne gets the win here. I was kind of shocked. I thought maybe we'd continue this a bit longer. Charlie Dempsey would get the win here, and they'd have some other stipulation or round 2 next week. But no, Miles Bourne gets the win here, fresh off his loss with Obafemi. Proves that Miles Bourne maybe isn't just a flash in the pan, so to speak, and maybe will be an issue going forward. Maybe again for Obafemi, who knows? But yeah, he's now free to move on from NQCC, and that was that. A bit anticlimactic, perhaps. But me personally, I'm not buying this is the end of this whole thing. I'm not buying the clean split. I think there's more to come, and we'll have to wait and see what comes of this next. We then see the women's winner of LFG Season 1, Tyra May Steele, go up against the always entertaining Ariana Grace. For the match itself, it's kind of hard to do much for Tyra in terms of, show up, show out. Against Ariana, who, this isn't a side to Ariana by any means, who I think has way more potential than simply a comedy act. I think she can kind of go in the ring as well. But alas, that's the role she's taken, so that's the match we get. And obviously, Tyro gets the win here in pretty quick fashion. Um, but yeah, I'm interested to see Tyra in a longer match, and I'm interested to see how quickly she can move up this absolutely stacked women's division. More on that later. We then get the much anticipated JC Jane promo, who after winning that NXT championship in very shocking fashion, I think most of us would agree, over Stephanie Vicari last week. We get to hear from her now. The heat that she had here was extremely impressive. I don't know how much of that heat is due to the fact that she, Fatal Influence is, a heel faction, or just because she's the one. If anyone had won that title from Becerra, I think they're getting a good amount of heat the next week. So interested to see if that heat can continue as the weeks proceed. But that being said, JC Jane handled this like a champ. The booze and all of that. She even told him to shut up or whatever towards the end of her promo, and she was not the crowd's hot reaction and heat that they were giving her didn't affect her in the slightest, and at least on my end. She took it in stride, so that was pretty impressive on her part. But after JC gets her win, she gets interrupted by pretty much any women's contender we kind of think could potentially go at the NXT title. And brawling ensues between the women, and then the lights go out. When the lights come back on, we see a spotlight shine, and it is on formerly known as Mariah May from AEW. I doubt that's the name she'll keep in NXT. But pretty shocking here. I think obviously we've all heard the rumors, being done with AEW, when would she head over to WWE, or would she? And here she is on, I think, the first available episode of NXT. So pretty quick fashion. We'll see. JC Jane definitely has her work cut out for her. And I see a lot of transitional champion thrown around about her. I think she deserves this title. She's put in a lot of work and always takes it in stride. I think she deserves this. Whether she's going to be a transitional champ or not, she certainly has her work cut out for her. Maybe both internally within her faction, and obviously plenty of women lining up to take that title off of her as well. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't expecting a little more from the promo from JC Jane. It's no fault of her. I just think, probably what was booked. But I think the fact that she took that title off of Care, we had to wait a week to hear from her. I think maybe could have done a little more with that, or maybe I just anticipated a little too much. But regardless, this was entertaining enough for what it was. Another thing I noted, Jordynne Grace being in the mix of contenders there. I think there were a lot of rumors of her moving up to main. Obviously, that doesn't appear to be the case, at least for now. So you have to think she'd probably be gunning for that. One of the top contenders gunning for that title pretty heavily. So we'll see how that plays out. We then get an 8-man tag match, which kind of, as mentioned, between the opening promo of NXT, Shawn Legacy, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, and Laredo Kid. Dragon Lee filling in for Rey Fenix, who apparently had airplane issues, I believe is what Ethan Page mentioned, versus Vanity Project. I know them as Swipe Right, and then I noticed their gear had Swipe Right on them as well, so I'm not sure if that's an Evolve NXT difference there or what, but regardless, they're teaming up with Ethan Page. I'm not really sure how to describe this match other than the fact that it was just pure chaos. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, very much chaotic. Bodies flying everywhere, and then occasionally Ethan Page slowing them down. But yeah, this was a ton of fun. NXT Universe let them know. I had fun with it as well. A nice spot in here when we see Shawn Legacy and Ethan Page in the ring going face to face while everyone else was laid out. I have a feeling this won't be the last time we see them. And then obviously, as mentioned earlier, Legacy getting the winner of the North American title match at Worlds Collide. I have a feeling that would be the first of many to come. Something about those two men in the ring just kind of felt special. But yeah, Dragon Lee ends up getting the win here, filling in for Rey Fenix, which I feel like was a good call. Dragon Lee at one point was a pretty hot prospect, and yeah, I'd love to see a resurgence for him. We then head backstage. We see Obafemi in the back looking to sign a contract for the NXT Championship match. He's then confronted by the challenger, Jasper Troy, who says, "This is the first time you've looked up to an opponent. How does it feel?" Oba responds simply by saying, "It doesn't matter if it's a twig or an oak tree, the end result is the same." Yeah, this rivalry has my attention. I think I kind of mentioned that last week. Yeah, this should be a fun one. Yeah, set to take place next Tuesday. I'd argue this is PLE worthy, but I don't think the next one is until July. So we'll see what next Tuesday brings. We then get the main event, which features Mike Santana of TNA versus Trick Williams for that newly won TNA World Championship. And the crowd was hot for this one. The crowd was hot for quite a few matches here tonight, but especially this one. Something about Mike Santana just really works for me. I can't quite pinpoint it, but I like him so far. From what I've seen from him and how little I've seen from him, he just has that. He kind of has that aura about him, I think. But yeah, unfortunately, this isn't an issue I complain about near as much on NXT as I do the main roster. But we do see kind of an interference cause the ending to this otherwise a very entertaining match. And it felt like Santana and Trick were building something pretty special here. But Casey Navarro and AJ Francis from TNA come in to take out Santana. Trick takes that opportunity to get the win and retain that TNA World Championship. So yeah, a bit disappointed in the ending. I felt like we were really working up to something special there. But I highly doubt this is the last we'll see of this particular feud, and I'm sure we're going to rematch sooner than later. But yeah, overall, this episode of NXT, yeah, I felt like it was pretty entertaining. We get to see the in-ring debut of Tyra May Steele. I'm sure she'll be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. We also see possibilities of what could come next with the NXT Women's Championship, of which could very much will likely include the newly acquired Mariah May. And a few good matches as well with the 8-man tag, Dempsey and Bourne, and most of the Trick versus Santana. So, yeah, this episode really kind of gave us a bit of everything, kind of continued some stories. And, yeah, I give this one an 8 out of 10. I really found myself to enjoy this episode of NXT. So with that, we have a few things we will get to later in the week. I'm not 100% sure if KP will be joining us yet, but we will figure something out. We have the Worlds Collide. I'm not sure we'll do a predictions, but definitely we'll do a reactions. And we will also be doing Money in the Bank predictions, as well as the SmackDown recap. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.